Excellent stuff. Thank you very much. And yep, I'm now the presenter as well. Let's make sure I present the right. Oh, that's funny. That should be the right one. That should be the right one, I think. Excellent. Mm. Hi, everybody. Good morning. Welcome to the Ultima's Microsoft licensing webinar. I think we are still getting a few people still joining, so we'll be looking to start in the next minute or two. Thank you. Excellent stuff. Thank you, everybody. Thank you, everybody, for joining. I think we are still getting some people joined, but I will start the webinar now with a relatively relaxed start as well. But thank you for joining. Welcome to the monthly Microsoft licensing webinar from Ultima. And the general update, as we didn't do one in January, we are going to be looking at Microsoft licensing updates, focus around kind of Microsoft licensing as well. Please note that this session is being recorded, and actually you will be sent a recording and and all of the slides as well. My name is Ian Gerrard. I'm the head of Microsoft licensing here at Ultima. For my sins, I have been doing this for a little while now. I think I'm pretty close to coming up to my 14 years at Ultima. Prior to that, I was at Microsoft, and I just worked really closely with a variety of organizations of various size, you know, kind of over 100,000 seats to under 100 seats, just kind of helping them understand Microsoft's licensing changes, policies, products, how things kind of work and fit together. This webinar, you know, I've been doing these for a while now. They're all available on our YouTube channel. Yeah, I'm always so interested to hear what you guys want to hear about. There will be an opportunity to ask questions as well. I'm covering off in this webinar today. Actually, let me just pop onto the agenda. As you can see, I'm going to be covering off really where we are in regards to Microsoft licensing, what the current state is, where their focus is in regards to their products, in regards to their funding today, what that conversation is, and I'll kind of work through a couple of examples to kind of try and make that come alive a little bit. We'll then cover off the commercial changes from Microsoft, price increases, decreases, the cost of this, the cost of that, the licensing changes, kind of product changes. How do you get how do you take advantage of them? What's coming? What does this mean for me as an organization? What does this mean around Microsoft strategy? How do I align to that? What's the benefits of aligning to that? Should I align to that? And again, all trying to relate all of these updates and current states all around kind of Microsoft strategy, what they're doing as they're coming up to their end of year at the end of June. And look, at the end, I will kind of cover off other product updates. There have been some really interesting updates. There's really been a lot of news in the last kind of 6 to 7 weeks. It's actually quite a lot to cover. Like I said, we will be kind of going through this step by step. So please let me know. Please pop your questions as they come. I'll try and cover them off at the end. Just from our side as well, we will be launching a poll. So Microsoft have got some key products. So please let us know which, if any, you are kind of interested in. It just kind of helps us keep on point. I mean, we generally put together these webinars based on the kind of conversations we've had over the last 6 to 7 weeks. You know, what are our customers talking about? But we also have a very, very close relationship with Microsoft, with all of our accreditations. So we're constantly being kept up to date by what Microsoft are doing, constantly being advised about what's coming just around the corner. Some stuff resonates more than others, right? Sometimes it's Microsoft pushing their own message. Sometimes it's a really cool technology trend or something that's just covering a very specific point in time. And that's really where I wanted to start with a general overview in regards to what the current state is with Microsoft. And I don't think there's going to be in here a huge shock to anybody, but it's always good to just kind of reframe the organization, reframe the messaging coming out from Microsoft, that there is this huge shift to kind of cloud subscription licensing. And one of the ways that we kind of see this most clearly, certainly over the last 6 to 8 weeks, and certainly coming into the last quarter, is Microsoft's kind of attitude when it comes to enterprise agreements. That traditional enterprise agreement, that 3-year long, where you have to commit to a certain number and you can lock that pricing for 3 years. Microsoft will give you a bit of a discount, and then you're effectively managing all the users on the same kind of profile of license, and you can change each year, but you lock your pricing, and that's a kind of very traditional way of doing it. Microsoft are very much trying to encourage organizations to move away from this model, saying actually the CSP brings a lot more increased flexibility and control. You can kind of do these on a month-by-month basis. You can do them on an annual basis. Watch this space. 3-year price locking is coming. It's here on some products, Dynamics 365, but not all products. But what is very common is most organizations maybe have a mix of both. Maybe you've got your head office on an enterprise agreement and you're utilizing like a CSP program to get that kind of flexibility and control, so you can kind of optimize your users more, because that's really what this is all about, is making sure that the significant investment you're making as an organization in your Microsoft licensing costs, that you're getting a good ROI on that. So the CSP does support that. You know, with the portals, we can track the actual usage, we can optimize those costs, we can kind of make you more efficient as an organization and make sure you're buying the correct level of product and the correct level of licensing. Actually, if you were to take a level A enterprise agreement and compare that against the CSP agreement, the CSP agreement is cheaper. Now, when I talk about levels with the enterprise agreement level A, you have to have at least 500 users to get to level A, and that's up to 2,400 or 2,399 users. That's level A. That's a level A enterprise agreement. And we're seeing Microsoft for corporate customers very much pushing the CSP agreement, maybe not incentivizing the EA as much as they used to. But any organization entering in that conversation with Microsoft, if you're focusing on that digital end user, how you can use things like Copilot AI, that Power Platform, all of these digital first solutions, this is only going to be something that kind of really advances your conversations, your negotiations with Microsoft, and of course, enhance your organization as well, making you more efficient, making you more optimized, again, kind of aligning to that CSP model. So many organizations have both. You know, it's a very live conversation right now. It really is. If we were to focus on some of the areas where, you know, to get specific, Microsoft have kind of called out, when we're dealing with Microsoft, looking at the promos they're releasing, looking at negotiating an enterprise agreement, no matter what the size of the organization, Microsoft take an enterprise agreement, they take a CSP renewal, they look at the products that you've currently got, and those sellers, those selling teams, those managers are basically being targeted on growth. So if you were to just buy exactly the same products that you bought previously, you wouldn't really get any discount or any incentive, because Microsoft want to see you buying new stuff, and that's how they kind of categorize. That's how the sellers are targeted. That's how they're going to hit their targets of quite significant growth in advance of 25%. And the only way that they can kind of do that is if you then buy additional product. If you buy any of these additional products, these are their key products, or you grow significantly, for example, with the Azure consumption. These are kind of the key triggers around that Microsoft communication, negotiation, alignment. There's a lot of funding available, anything to do with Microsoft E5, whether that's the Defender for Endpoint, Defender for Office 365, how that fits within your current technology stack. if there's competitive product in there. Obviously the Power Platform, Power BI, Power BI Pro, Power BI Premium. What's that conversation like with the shift from per capacity to Fabric? Very, very live conversation there as well. Teams, and when I say Teams, we're effectively talking about Teams telephony, using it as your cloud PBX. And then actually, if you're looking to step into the world of automation, kind of a little bit AI, it's Teams Premium as well. I mean, the next one is obviously the big one, Microsoft Copilot, especially with Wave 2 release in November, but Microsoft 365 Copilot, Copilot Studio. Just a really live conversation. I'm going to come on to the promos and the specifics later, but this is still an absolute key trigger. And it's something where we're seeing many organizations who fully invest getting some good ROI on that. I do see some questions coming in, so I will try and cover them off at the end, although I'm a nightmare for getting distracted, and just because one's been asked. What position are we in with Microsoft if we have most, if not all, of these products? Yeah, great question. Well, you're actually in a really strong position in regards to that, because you've entered into that long-term strategic relationship with Microsoft. And then you need to look at what your cost profile is. If you're coming out of a CSP agreement, if you're coming out of an enterprise agreement, if you're kind of looking at a price increase of greater than 5 to 10, well, normally about 10%, but we try and argue for 5%. And actually you've really invested in that E5, you've kind of tick to all of those products, then there's no way you as an organization should be punished for doing that, just because you're not buying extra products, you've already bought them all, right? So it's all around turning that into an optimization message. Okay, well, are you using them all? Actually, is there some funding over here that we can help you deploy? So it wouldn't necessarily be on the cost of a license, on the discount. Hey, here's a 20% discount, because Microsoft do need to still have those triggers. It's very much the other side of the fence, which is around the funding, some of the end customer incentive funding, where you can kind of see those products. One thing that we do, sorry to go on, but again, it's how you approach Microsoft in those conversations. If you've committed all users to E5 with, you've deployed Windows 11 Enterprise, you're using Microsoft Copilot, you're turning, and Microsoft saying, well, there's not much more we can do. We change that conversation. We take it back to you as an organization, and we check whether your users are fully using those products to kind of say, well, actually, we might need to do some optimization here. We're not seeing full utilization, so you need to kind of incentivize us to renew, and we're not seeing incentivization, and then focus on the funding, whether that's end user training, technical training, adoption training, migration, support. So that's the kind of conversation, but it's a really good thing to raise, and we kind of take back ownership of that conversation, right? Are you using the stuff that you've bought? Sorry, I've gone off on a tangent. I will leave all other questions till the end until I invariably get distracted again. On the funding side, Microsoft Fast Track is something else that Microsoft are putting a lot of focus on at the moment, mainly because they've got this other pot of money, right? It's called ESIF funding, End Customer Investment Funding, ESIF, ECIF. Microsoft make a big song and dance around this huge pot of money to give customers to buy Microsoft product. It starts on the 1st of July at the start of their financial year. When we got to just before Christmas, that pot had gone, completely gone, been allocated, customers, partners taking it, nothing less to, and that was meant to last until the end of June. It expires at the end of June. Now we think it's going to be replenished when we come into their final quarter. April, May, June, 1st of April get replenished, but there's no kind of guarantees around that. So the reason I bring this up is because enhanced focus has only been placed on things like the MCI workshops and Fast Track. Now, Fast Track has been around for a long time. Maybe it's got not a fantastic reputation previously, but listen, it is, and Fast Track isn't where Microsoft come in and give you a load of money or do the work for you, or even pay for a partner to come and do the work for you. It is kind of a service that gives you access to the latest and greatest information, available guides, kind of onboarding assistance, personalized onboarding assistance, expert advice, kind of comprehensive support. That's what Fast Track is. As Ultimate, right, Fast Track partner, we enhance this service with like tailored resources, maybe some project management, mentioned about the training as well, kind of end user training. So this just kind of ensures customers who engage with Microsoft and Ultima as a fast track partner, just you kind of get that return on your IT and investment. So yeah, that's fast track is certainly something they're making a big play on over the next 6 months. And the other one being MCI workshops. Depending on the product that you've bought, this isn't funding to buy a thing that you've already bought. Defender, you've already bought, maybe Copilot. Actually, the Copilot one is pre-sales, to be fair, apologies. But these MCI workshops, again, are funded workshops by Microsoft, delivered by a partner, where we kind of run through with a Copilot. And those are the three most popular ones: data security, threat protection, Copilot vision and value. And again, just, Microsoft putting a lot of focus on those workshops. They're really good. Little bit salesy, but that's often the best way to kind of let people know the vision and value of Copilot. And as long as you enter into it with the understanding that this is something to really sell the vision and value of Copilot, actually, this is how you can write good prompts. This is how to engage your users. This is how to make sure this lands successfully. Inside tip, doesn't necessarily work with one or two licenses. There needs to be a kind of concerted effort and project within your organization. I also wanted to kind of cover off a good example when we kind of look at some of the Microsoft's current state, some of the strategies that they're having, and how we're kind of seeing that with some of the news that they're releasing. So I wanted to talk about Exchange Server, right? It's difficult to judge the level, so apologies if I'm going to go over stuff that you already know. But the last version of Exchange Server was 2019. So there is going to be a new version. It's going to be Exchange Server 2025. It's going to be released in the third quarter, so July, the calendar quarter, third quarter of 2025. It's going to be a subscription-only license. You cannot buy it as a perpetual license. License only is not going to be an option for you. So you have to engage within that subscription model. It's going to be called SE, which means subscription edition. And yeah, you can downgrade it. It will, you'll still be supported, whether you wanted to use 2019 or previously. Maybe you're sitting there thinking, as most people are thinking, well, I've got the Microsoft 365 suite. Within that Microsoft 365 suite, E3, E5, for example, you get granted the on-premise productivity server rights. So you get like your Exchange server, SharePoint server, Skype for Business server. You also get your Windows server, CALs. So you wouldn't have a separate license for Exchange necessarily. But if you are still on premise, or you do have those legacy boxes, or for whatever reason you're sweating an asset, the next version of Exchange Server 2025 is going to be subscription only. Within the M365 suite, you get those productivity suites, but you're actually restricted to either the latest edition or the previous edition in -2. So you've got that. You can effectively run Exchange Server 2016 or 2019. When 2025 comes out, there's going to be an expectation is that if you're using those productivity server rights and you've actually deployed Exchange Server 2016, you're going to need to upgrade to 2019. So this is Microsoft just forcing that upgrade path by releasing a new version of the on-premise server, but actually making that a real, you have to be within that subscription model, encouraging you to enter into that flexible mobile subscription option. Another good example, you will get these slides, and it's a bit wordy, this one, but I wanted to cover off what's going on with Windows Server 2012. I have covered it off previously, but it's a really good indicator of what Microsoft are doing within this space. So we don't need to sit here and read all of this detail, and you'll get these slides. But Windows Server 2012 is in extended support. Year 2 came out in October 2024, obviously year 1, the one previously. And you need to get some extended security updates. And there's always kind of been 3 choices to buy those updates. Number 1, Classic Microsoft answer. Oh, well, actually, if you migrate this Windows Server 2012 server to Azure, free of charge, you can stay there, but you'll get these extended security updates for free. If only it was that simple. But maybe it is, and speak to Ultima about how we can help you with that, of course. The second option would be to have Azure and Arc able servers. It was meaning that your servers can remain on premise. Effectively, you can enroll them in Azure Arc, and kind of through the Azure consumption, you can kind of buy your security updates on a month by month basis and kind of bang, turn it off whenever you would need to as well. Or the third option, by far and away the most popular, 80 to 90% most popular option, is to buy like an annual volume license for that extended support. You have to buy it in year 1 and year 2 and year 3. So for example, if you needed it right now, you kind of need to go back and buy year 1 as well as year 2. Kind of runs October to October. You have to buy the full year. The cost of the extended support is basically the cost of the license again, so it's very, very expensive. But the fact is, if you're running 2012, the legacy servers, so on and so forth, so many people bought into that volume license and making that assessment. And Microsoft they've basically removed all of the pricing for the volume license, buying that year license. They're pretty much removing those from the price list, and they're putting in a load more prerequisites. You have to have software assurance. You need to purchase for each year. There's those minimum core values. Even if you migrate away, you're still having to commit to the full year. But they've actually even removed that from an enterprise agreement. You kind of need to go to Microsoft. It's on lead status, which means you need to have put together a business case to be approved, because Microsoft really just wants to push Windows Server 2012 ESUs enabled by Azure Arc. Again, moving people towards that subscription model, driving that pay-as-you-go, driving that Azure consumption. That's a key product for them, that Azure growth. I mean, they're still targeting 40% Azure growth. And they're not hitting it, by the way, but they're certainly driving it. And by forcing the issue, by forcing all servers to, previously with Exchange, maybe seeing all of those in subscription, they've added those onto the CSP. Forcing this with the ESU, I could equally be talking about SQL, really kind of forcing that Azure Arc model. Look, I'm not completely criticizing it, because actually, if you are able to enable Azure Arc, it's actually going to be a pretty sweet way of doing it. Financially, it makes sense. You can turn it off and turn it on. You don't need to back pay for previous updates. It is pay as you go. It is seamless delivery. So there's an awful lot going for Azure Arc. I'm not kind of beating up on that. I'm just saying that many organizations aren't there. And of course, Ultima can help with that. But Microsoft are now forcing the issue by removing some of the traditional kind of yearly options. It's a good example. ESU costs. So then when you look at it, you think, well, actually, I've got a data center server where it's got 24 cores. I'm just going to buy that license, that annual license, and that's going to be, £7,800. You do exactly the same with Azure Arc, and you're looking at about £1,000 saving a month. So, like for like. But it's the fact with Azure Arc, you wouldn't need to prepay, backfill, prepay, have the active software assurance, commit to a full year. You can turn it off as soon as you've done that upgrade, so it's cheaper and more flexible. So there's a lot of advantages with Azure Arc, but also really, really appreciate it's just not an option for some organizations. So they're having to, for 80% plus organizations. So yeah, very, very interesting one to bear in mind. Upcoming changes in regards to Microsoft's commercials. What are we seeing? What are we seeing from them? I've obviously not really categorized these very well. I probably should have started with, I don't know, group them together at least, Ian. Come on, man. So price changes, price increases, of which there are some. And again, look, you can read a slide. The big one on the 1st of February, 4 days ago, there's a 6% decrease across all cloud subscriptions and across all agreements, whether that's an enterprise agreement whether that is a CSP agreement, saw a 6% decrease. That's due to the global pricing harmonization, whereas in theory, you know, bearing in mind the US price list was cheaper than the UK, so they're bringing the UK pricing down to match that. And we were relatively surprised about that, but happy days. And I'm on a webinar, and if someone wants to talk to me about some other reasons why we think there might have been a decrease, we'll be happy to share them. The other good news in regards to new promos available. So if you've never bought like Microsoft 365 Copilot before, there's a 15% discount if you buy between kind of 10 and 300 licenses up to the end of March. I think there's a fairly good chance that will be extended. But right now, this promotion is available to the end of March. If you're sitting there with just 2 or 3 licenses, please come and speak to us. We'll look to see if we can get an exception for your organization. Again, if you're looking for an exception, so you can go from 2 to 10 licenses, probably not going to happen. If you're looking for an exception because you want to buy an extra 200 licenses, definitely we can see that. Then also, if you've never bought Microsoft 365 E3 or E5 before, there's a promo, again, first-time customers only, that are going to be in place up to the end of June, up to the end of Microsoft's financial year. We've also seen the end of some promos. I mentioned about Teams Premium earlier, this kind of, Teams Premium features similar to some of the stuff you get within Copilot. There was a 30% discount promo. It was extended and extended and extended, and now it has ended. Price increases. This is interesting. There's going to be a 5%, like 90% of organizations who've got a CSP agreement have their CSP agreement renewal in February and March. This is because of historic price increases and customers needing to, or wanting to smartly, every partner worth their salt out there, we're getting customers to do that year commitment before those price increases hit, which simply means that the industry as a whole, across February and March, I say 90% of CSP customers are going to be looking at doing their renewal at this point. And then from the 1st of April, and most of them utilize the monthly billing with no additional cost. Microsoft are going to be introducing a 5% surcharge from the 1st of April. So we'll only, if you renew before the 1st of April for the year, this won't impact you, but it would impact you in 2026. It's a 5% increase for an annual commitment, but on monthly invoicing. Wait a minute, doesn't that go against Microsoft's core thing about flexibility and control? Yes, it does. Next one. And that's just the joys of working with Microsoft and working with a partner who can make sure when you're making these commitments that you're making the right commitment. Big conversation there all around optimizing your users. Microsoft want to push Microsoft 365 E5. There's 3 big components of E5. You need to be buying 2 of those components to justify that cost of E5. The 3 components are Teams Telephony, Power BI Pro, and the full Defender suite. If you just buy one of them, it's really hard to justify that move up to the full E5. The one that many organizations, they're basically increasing the cost of Power BI Pro by 40%. So suddenly, if you've committed to Power BI Pro, that uplift from just Power BI Pro to the full E5 is suddenly a lot closer. So this is something that, and there's loads of extra benefits and features of Power BI Pro, and maybe that will work with your Fabric as well. So there's that side, but also the other side, the fact that it's just meaning that if you're investing in Power BI Pro, that leap to E5 is suddenly a lot more attainable. Thoughts on it? Wonderful. There's a fire alarm going off. Absolutely fantastic. There is another question from John. Thank you, John. Thoughts on if we are likely to see an increase in M365 E5 given that Power BI is going? No, actually, yeah, very good. Yes, there are. There's a lot of changes in the Asia Pacific region. I was going to mention something about E1 Plus later on as well. We are not expecting the price of E5 to go up in the next 12 months. We are seeing the Power BI Pro go up, but again, it's to bridge that gap, to suddenly make E5 look more attractive. Someone who's been doing this for a while, like myself, might say that when we see the Power BI Pro increase kind of level out, maybe in 12 months' time, when we look at E5 again, I think that there would be an increase. You might even say, if I was a predictive, I don't know. If I was a more forthright man, I'd say that Copilot and Power BI, sorry, Power Apps and Power Automate are going to combine to create an E6, which you are going to see that probably being a bit of an uplift on E5. That's speculation. Microsoft have not officially or unofficially said anything. I should not speculate on webinars like this, but also I just did. The next piece we're going to run on to is some of the product changes. Look, it's a big one. It's actually been around and announced for a long time now. We're actually coming up to a year, where Teams has been removed from E3 and E5 on those online suites. Still, so many customers kind of ask, well, I've already got it. Can I renew? Can I do this? Can I do that? If you are, it doesn't impact you if you've already got it, right? You can still renew, you can still add new users. Your issues might be, and this is crazy, if you kind of go from an EA to a CSP, you would then, when you go from that to that, from EA to CSP, CSP to EA, just to change your tenants on CSP, then you would suddenly need to start buying the Teams license with no Teams. You can only retain Teams by staying on the same agreement. But if you do stay on the same agreement, you can add new users, you can renew, no impact. Look, even if you have to buy the one with no Teams, you just add Teams as a separate license. There is approximately a 5% cost increase, but actually, ultimately, we're doing everything we can to keep it cost neutral if you're just maybe switching agreements. So it's still a really live conversation and something important to get your head around. So look, when all said and done, there are several ways to engage with Microsoft, bearing in mind where they are as an organization, what they're pushing, the changes in their commercials within their licensing as well. And certainly the first message would be to start early. Whether if you're doing an enterprise agreement, you're looking at engagement 6 to 8 months prior, certainly to do that cost modeling before you start in with that true Microsoft engagement. And even with CSP now, the sooner you engage and start, not engage with Microsoft, the sooner you start reviewing that renewal, the better. Start early. Secondly, understand your needs. Before approaching Microsoft, maybe as the previous person said, you've already bought all of those key products, but actually are those key products being used? Microsoft will push Copilot, but if you already understand your needs and you think, well, actually, we can nip that one in the bud with good reasoning, then again, that's only going to enhance your position and making sure you come up with the right licensing solution, and also keeping Microsoft on track with what they incentivize, whether that's with commercial discount or funding. Make sure you understand your needs, so Microsoft or your partner and Ultima can respond and deliver on that. We don't start trying to upsell or talk to you about different things. With Defender, hey, look at E5, you get Microsoft Defender, but actually you've got a variety of different security products within there, and you've just committed to another 12 months, so you're not going to get that in-time value for a while. So truly understanding your needs aligned to your roadmap is critical within that piece. And obviously leveraging partners like Ultima can help with that, so you know what that roadmap is, so you know what that strategy is, where to align, where not to align, when to engage, and on what timeline. We've got portals, funding, and access, customer success, and all these types of things, so we can optimize your usage, improve your ROI, make sure you're in a really strong base position, that you know what you need to do, and that you're constantly staying informed, so that there's a 40% price increase coming with Power BI Pro, or actually, yes, CSP licensing might be fine. We can be ready to be confident that it's going to be fixed for at least the next 12 months. So staying informed is always going to put you in a good stead when kind of engaging with Microsoft. And again, the licensing should support your business goals. It's probably your biggest software investment, of course. So you need to make sure that the price point is correct for you, but it's got to be around that value, and it's got to be aligned with your business goals, especially in regards to some of the key products you may or may not be buying. So just a kind of reiteration of that, and we're really happy to kind of speak to you on what that timeline might be. I'm just going to come on now to, and please engage with Ultima, please engage with your Microsoft account team, your Ultima account team. You know, we can really help. I want to see some other stuff that's coming, because on the 1st of September 2024, Microsoft did introduce something called Office 365 E1 Plus in the Central Middle East and EMEA regions, not Europe, sorry. This is the introduction of E1 Plus Intune, Enter ID with data loss protection, and available on CSP, kind of pitched in between E1 and E3. So I think this is going to be coming to the UK market. I think this is going to be coming in their new financial year, in the 1st of July. So that's a prediction. That's not confirmed officially or unofficially. Again, we don't know the price point, but looking at a few other bits and pieces, we're thinking around £16 per user. So imagine this is someone who's got a mobile device, the E1, so they get Office web apps, they get that exchange online with the reduced, previously with the reduced inbox, but now they can put some DLP on that for their messages. You can still control that user with Intune and Enter ID and MFA, so they can be secured as they are remote. Delivery drivers, store managers, regional managers, sales team, sales manager, IT workers, but out on the road, or again, more flexible, more mobile as a user. What's coming? There is going to be a new version of Office Long-Time Servicing Channel released later this year. So this is, again, just the that perpetual copy. It's going to be released without publisher. 10% price increase. Standalone. We mentioned previously about Exchange Server. There is going to be a long-time servicing channel available, although we are reviewing that in light of Exchange Server SE Subscription Edition 2025 coming out. In fact, we're even being told there's still going to be a Skype Business Server long-time servicing channel available as well. Right here, right now, OneDrive, they've updated their storage policies. So kind of impacting now to kind of up till March, you need to make sure unlicensed accounts after 90 days, effectively, you need to make, the information, the data you put into there is going to be inaccessible unless they are archived away. So they'd previously be kept, but now you just need to make sure that within 90 days of a license being removed or a OneDrive being unlicensed, you're getting in there and you're implementing your retention policies, because otherwise they will be inaccessible to users. Still visible to admins, but inaccessible to users. Giuseppe, thank you for the question. M365E3 files and storage unlimited. No, that's not the case. 1.5 terabytes. Probably need to check that. Definitely going to be corrected on this webinar if I get things like that wrong. You can buy additional file storage as well. It's like 13-14 pence a month to top it up 1 gig at a time. But E3, the user's going to get a huge inbox, and then they kind of say it's unlimited OneDrive storage, but it's not. I want to say 5 terabytes. So apologies, I'm going to stop speculating. I'm going to make a note of that question and come back to you with an exact answer. It's like 1.5 terabytes, but then you can get it up to 5 if you need to. So it's not quite unlimited, but pretty much. To be discussed. I don't mean to be so not specific about the detail, and I will make sure that's clarified for you. Look, what else is coming? A biggie. I think it will resonate with some customers more than others. Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat. So this is a feature within Microsoft 365. By the way, you don't need to buy Microsoft 365 Copilot. Microsoft 365 Copilot Chat is part of M365. It's included. It's the use of agents previously, like a Power Pages type thing. Copilot Studio, again, something which lots of people are talking about. Copilot Studio, pay as you go, was released on the 1st of December. So as effectively, previously kind of a couple of options with Copilot Studio, you'd kind of buy it as a volume license on your CSP agreement, on your enterprise agreement. About £200 a month would give you 25,000 messages for that month, and then you now have the option to kind of go pay as you go. So you can choose instead to, as you say, rather than kind of prepaying for those 25,000 messages, as you're creating these agents, you get a cost of a pence per message. Most organizations now would choose the messaging and then use the pay as you go, just in case just for capacity, in case you tip over in a given month. It's generally what we're seeing. They buy the per messages and then add pay as you go as a safety net. GitHub Copilot free. Absolutely aimed at anyone kind of wanting to get started with GitHub Copilot, restricted to about 50 messages and interactions. And then you'd need to upgrade to like GitHub Pro, about £8 a month that would be. But of the 50 messages for GitHub Copilot for free. In December, Viva Goals retired, and customers with existing licenses continue to use it up until those licenses expires or the 31st of December 2025. And thank you very much for your time. I think I've covered questions as they have come in. You will get a copy of these slides. I always want to know what you want to hear about. This is generally based on the conversations I have anyway, through quarterly reviews and various other conversations just directly with customers and clients, but also with vendors. So just really interested to know what you want to hear about. For next month, thinking the virtual desktop, thinking where Windows 11 plays within that virtual desktop, how the Copilot PC influence that's having on it. I think we probably need to acknowledge the Citrix situation in regards to AVD, parallels, interesting new technology. So that's something I'm probably thinking about. Haven't quite thought that through. I think I'm probably thinking that for next month. So if you all think that's not a good idea, please let me know. I am going to stop talking and ask if there's any questions. Cool, no problem. Please contact myself. Please contact your Ultima account manager if you have any questions, or your licensing specialist. Yeah. Thank you very much for your time. Thank you very much for your time. Goodbye.